Delegates, welcome. It is such a wonderful experience to gather once again as colleagues and take the opportunity to analyse not only the state of our working lives, but also our own organisation. These 2 days give us time to examine where we stand and what we stand for. I hope that we can all appreciate the importance of what we do over these days and how fortunate we are to live in a society that allows us that privilege. To have a voice is a rare and powerful thing, something our founders fought for, our retired members maintained, and is now our duty to use. I thank you all for your attendance and commitment and for being part in keeping this organisation alive and well. This, delegates, is our 47th annual conference, and it is wonderful to be back here in the beautiful county of Cavan. The Slieve Russell Hotel has held conference on many separate occasions and has always been a popular choice. I would like to thank the management and staff for all their hard work and hospitality, and I have no doubt that this year will be to the high standards we have come to expect. Thank you all once again. 47 conferences are a great achievement. For the most part, we have continued to conduct our business as we have always done, through democratic process, discussion, and to the most part consensus. Apart from the size of the delegation, which has increased over the years, the format has remained the same. Apart from the changing faces over the years, the message has remained the same. This year, however, sees one major change. For the first time in 47 years, the chairman's address will be given by a woman. I cannot stress to you enough what a privilege it is for me to be that woman. This is an honour that has brought me great pride over the last year and an experience that I will remember forever. I am honoured to work with the members of the Officer Board and have made some great friends in my time involved in the PNA. I am very lucky to be in a position to talk to you all today, but I am also very conscious of the fact that I may be the first, but I will most certainly not be the last. The fact that I stand here today is not just because of the many, many women who have held office as members of the board in the past, but also because of the changing face of leadership within our organisation. More and more women, more now than ever, have become leaders of this union at local, regional and national level. This reflects the changing face and demographic of the union leadership globally. I may be the first, but I am sure that many more will follow. The year that has just passed has seen the continued success of the PNA in negotiating and advocating the position of our members at both national and local level. Notwithstanding these successes, we still remain in one of the most troublesome and turbulent times that has faced this union. On a national perspective, we remain under-resourced at the front lines, underappreciated by our employers, and underpaid by our masters. This, you might say, is no different than always, and I would have to agree, but over the coming months we will have an opportunity to advocate for the improved pay for nurses into the future. It is of the utmost importance that this opportunity does not slip us by, and I have no doubt that we will ensure that this does not. The recruitment and retention of nursing staff is our primary consideration, and in the coming months we will learn the findings of the Public Service Pay Commission. The Commission will report on issues relating to nursing, consultants and NCHDs by the end of June 2018. This is part of the Commission's modular reporting structure. Nursing will be part of Modular 1 and will be examined in the first instance. The PNA were called upon to give and deliver a submission to the Pay Commission, outlining our concerns regarding pay, recruitment and retention, and also suggestions for the resolution of these concerns. The Commission's statement of approach also gave an opportunity to examine any other concerns that may arise. It stated, recruitment and/or retention issues, additional to those identified in the Commission's first report, in respect of additional issues emerging from the call to submission, the Commission will seek further evidence as appropriate, including data from the public service employer. The Commission will then consider to what extent a difficulty exists in terms of recruitment and retention for those additional specific groups, grades in the sectors in the public service. Where evidence is found to substantiate the existence of such difficulties, the Commission will then assess the timeframe and resources required to fully examine those additional issues and will, where necessary, engage with the Minister for PER in relation to such timing and/or resourcing issues. This gave rise to the national survey conducted by the Commission, Engage to Change. The survey has been undertaken by an independent research company, Research Matters Limited, and will include online surveys, face-to-face interviews. The PNA have raised concerns to the Pay Commission in relation to the need to conduct this survey, as it is clearly outlined in our submission to the Commission the difficulties in relation to recruitment and retention of nurses. HSE management have also acknowledged and recognised the difficulties in recruiting and retaining nurses. An abundance of evidence clearly exists to substantiate the crisis in recruitment and retention of nurses, and it is frustrating, to say the least, that we must jump through hoops again to prove what is undeniable. No longer can we tolerate the working conditions we have faced for a decade. No longer can we continue to see our best and brightest nurse graduates take flights abroad for better pay and condition. When will those in power realise and respect the fact that nurses are the heart and soul of our services, and without us there would be no service? At conference last year we set out our goal: parity with the therapy grades. This is what we expect and need to stabilise the nursing profession. All other avenues have been attempted through our own recruitment and retention campaign, and this may be our last chance to recognise the grade for its true value. Nonetheless, we must have faith that the realisation will not be lost on those examining the issues, and that justice will prevail. If not, we will seek justice by our own means. The St. Pat's pension dispute has now been resolved, but only after members endure months and months of uncertainty, distress and anger. They were plunged into an uncertain future when management decided to completely disband the defined benefit scheme. Following an arduous process of negotiations, most of its value was saved. St. Patrick's Branch are the epitome of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The solidarity and clarity of vision by the branch membership is an inspiration to us all. They never backed down. They showed an utter willingness to stand together. Even those unaffected by the dispute were more than willing to fight for their colleagues. I would like to congratulate Owen Ward and his committee and the branch of St. Pat's for their hard work. I wish to also thank the union actuary, Joe Byrne, and of course Seamus Murphy for his continued passion to see the issue to resolution even after his retirement. Thank you all for your dedication. Throughout the country, we continue to face issues that are unacceptable in the present day. We continuously endure scenarios that should be confined to the history books, but unfortunately, that is not the case. The establishment for Vision for Change was to herald in a new era of services that would properly cater for the needs of the most vulnerable in our society. It wasn't without its challenges. It needed commitment from us and endurance, something that we gave and continue to give. It was the end of the institution, that antiquated form of treatment that supposedly provided no dignity for patients and was blasted for not being recovery focused. Instead, we were to be catered for a new state-of-the-art units supported by robust community teams that would care for individuals in their own homes. That never happened. Instead, we are left with 30% of the vision for change, to the extent that there is not one mental health service in this country which has fully implemented the vision for change. The teams were never established. The intensive care rehabilitation units were never built. The additional CAMHS beds were never realised, leaving our child and adolescent services on the brink of breaking point. Indeed, many believe they have surpassed that point. Of course, we are told by management that these are unattainable due to the lack of nurses. This, in part, is true, but it has also become an excuse for stagnation. Some of our acute services have now passed a tipping point, and this will spread to other settings if remained unchecked. Services which have been historically strong, robust and effectively managed are only a crisis away from experiencing irreversible damage. The reality now is that seemingly it is acceptable to the HSE to admit a child to a chair in an adult psychiatric unit. It has become the norm to expect an acutely unwell patient to have no bed on a ward. This, of course, is no skin off the nose of the management of the HSE, who rarely get their hands dirty on the front lines of care, and why should it when they expect nurses to be the ones to carry out their dirty work? In CHO8, the area I work in myself, it appears our members are working with an invisible entity, where senior management ignore requests to meet, fail to acknowledge or reply to correspondence, and refuse to progress matters relating to basic entitlements of our members. Frustrated with this, the Laois Offaly branch recently returned a ballot with 98% of its members in favour of industrial action. It appears the only way to get a meeting or progress an issue in CHO8 is to threaten industrial action. The complete disregard for engagement and consultation is unacceptable and disrespectful to our members and will not be tolerated by this organisation. With Longford Westmeath and Loudmead experiencing the same difficulties, it can only be a matter of time before these branches also ballot for industrial action, and a regional dispute will follow in CHO8. No longer will we tolerate such blatant disregards towards our members. Currently within CHO5, our colleagues within Kilkenny and Waterford Mental Health Services regularly have to explain to patients and families that unfortunately there is no bed, so you will have to be nursed from a chair. They explain to families that due to overcrowding, their loved ones will have to sleep on a mattress on a floor, usually in a common area, beds shoved into any available space. Men, women and children shoehorned into any available space and dignity shoved out the window. I'm not like Coleman, I'm not hungover, I was just, throat is dry. Both units with 44 beds expected to endure numbers consistently over that, and in one instance, accumulating in 51 patients being crammed into one of the units. We demanded change, but none was forthcoming. We held protests to highlight the concerns of the nursing staff, but nothing changed. We asked ourselves then, and we ask ourselves now, does anyone care? Undeterred by the lack of criticism from others, the members of the Kilkenny branch of the PNA voted for action up to and including strike. In December 2017, the action commenced shortly afterwards. Their colleagues in Waterford did the same thing. Since then, they have been engaged in phases of industrial action in both areas, which will shortly culminate in a withdrawal of all goodwill from the service. Although this is a scenario that we do not take lightly, it is the only way to highlight the immense problems within the service and maybe the only way to focus the minds on resolution. The solution being more nurses, more beds, and better resources in an area that is currently at breaking point. I wish to call on the HSE to step up and focus on the matters at hand. Solutions must be found, solutions that won't take years to realise, but that will solve the overcrowding immediately. This can be done. Our members are committed to achieving this, and so should the HSE. Vision for Change moved us from the institution, but at least the institution was never short of a bed, was never short of a nurse, and had the nurses required to treat and care for the patients effectively. Progress, it would seem, is a double-edged sword. The action currently underway in CHO5 is not about money for our members. This is about our members demanding the necessary respect for their clients. I, for one, wish to thank our colleagues in Waterford and Kilkenny for their hard work and dedication to their patients. I have no doubt that they will achieve a resolution and find themselves in a brighter and better service in the future. And when they do, it will be because of their commitment and fortitude. Thank you all. The Haddington Road Agreement saw the abolishment of the 1/6 additional per hour for evening duties between 6 and 8 p.m. For several months we have been in negotiations regarding the return of this payment. The payment will be linked to productivity, and the PNA have made several suggestions as to how this can be achieved. 4 tasks have been proposed by the nursing unions to apply to mental health approved centres, residential services and rehabilitation services as follows. Sharing of formulating, reviewing and implementing integrated care plans. Sharing of the initiation of risk assessments and ongoing reviews. Sharing of the clozapine, denzapine monitoring. And sharing of the TMVA CPI training for medical staff. These will be finalised at our next meeting on the issue, which is scheduled to take place on April 26th. Once the range of tasks are confirmed and the preparatory work put in place, restoration of the payment across the mental health sector will take place from July the 1st, 2018. Any retrospective elements will be considered by the chairman of this group, who will indicate the process to finalise the issues also prior to July 1st. This is the exciting bit now, and you can thank Elaine for this one. Data protection, very important. On the 26th of May 2018, new data protection laws came into effect. The aim of the General Data Protection Regulation is to protect all EU citizens from privacy and data breaches in an increasingly data-driven world. And in this regard, the way the PNA has operated to date is not fully compliant with GDPR. We now have to change how we function in our roles as branches, representatives, officer board members and staff. Personal data is any data relating to the living individual who can be identified from the data alone or from the data in conjunction with other information that is in or likely to come into the possession of the data controller. Sensitive personal data is data relating to racial or ethnic origin, political opinions, religion or philosophical beliefs, trade union membership, physical or mental health, and or details of any criminal allegations, proceedings or convictions. The data the PNA controls and possesses falls into the category of sensitive personal data, and going forward we must take extra care as to how we protect that data we are in the possession of. or collect, we must ask ourselves, can the data I hold, transfer, view, text, email, post, distribute or possess in any way identify a living person? If it can, we have to protect that information to the best of our ability. The Data Protection Commissioner has stated, the GDPR is big news because it can't be business as usual for any type of company or public sector body after May 18. If it is business as usual after that point, there will be consequences for companies and organisations, whether they are big or small, public or private, and those consequences will be very significant. Consumers may seek compensation from organisations if they consider their data protection rights have been breached. Data protection authorities may enforce against organisations, including significant fines, and if that happens, we will be publishing the facts of the fines and the reason for the fine, meaning that organisations may also suffer from reputational damage. The PNA, as a controller of sensitive personal data, has had to appoint a data protection officer. The role has been taken up by our Executive General Secretary, Elaine Melia. The DPO will be the main point of contact for anyone who has an issue regarding data protection, and all data breaches must be reported to the DPO within 72 hours of being made aware of the breach. The DPO has prepared a handout which is included in your delegates' packs, and I would urge you to read it, and if you have any questions, contact Elaine. She'll look forward to those calls. We will be providing some training on our new data protection policy, which is currently being drafted up and which will include some IT changes. I do appreciate this isn't the most exciting topic, but I cannot stress enough the importance of our compliance with GDPR. The repercussions are huge, and the PNA has fought long and hard to achieve our high standards of integrity. We cannot allow our reputation to be damaged due to non-compliance. Once the new rules are implemented, we can be confident that our members, volunteers and employees' data is safe and protected. GDPR is a reminder to us all that people lend us their information, and we as an organisation have a responsibility to look after it. It's not just about confidentiality, it's about integrity, accuracy and availability, and it is just best practice. The recruitment and retention campaign of 2016 was a long, arduous affair which involved months of phased actions that eventually resulted in agreement at national level. The hard work of the PNA over those months resulted in the resolution of all 14 of our claims and returned to us the community allowance which had been withdrawn for many years. This summer will mark 2 years since the resolution of the dispute, and since then we have been engaged with an implementation group to support its introduction. The community allowance has now been paid in full, but some areas experienced long delays in payments, which has now been resolved. We have also been engaged in a prolonged WRC conciliation regarding the application of the allowance to the grade of those working within nurse practice development. I am pleased to say that this has resulted in a process that will see an independent adjudicator examine each individual claim for the allowance. We hope that this will see a widespread application of the allowance to these grades. Also, as per conference motion last year, and following the current process underway, we will seek the application of the allowance, of the community allowance, to those working within the ID service. The movement away from the congregated setting has resulted in more community-orientated approach in these services, which gives rise to the same argument made when the allowance was first realised. We hope to progress this claim in the short term. The recruitment and retention campaign was a great success, but still we must stay vigilant to ensure its implementation. We reached agreement on a 28 turnaround of applications made by mental health services to the HSE to access NRS panels. This has not been adhered to and continues to cause frustratingly long delays in filling vacant posts. We continue to struggle in some areas to achieve the application of incremental credit to our 2011 to 2015 graduates. Of the 28 advanced nurse practices that were agreed, 10 have yet to be identified. The lack of movement on these issues are due to the services themselves and are an insult to the hard-working nurses in these areas. This is a shameful act and must be rectified now. I would demand that these services act immediately to implement what is due to our members and profession, or else be considered part of the problem and not the solution. We will be working with the implementation group to ensure that these issues are resolved without delay. Despite the increase in training, which now sees 420 graduates per year, and the establishment of the postgraduate programme, major recruitment and retention issues still exist. The numbers retiring within our service remain at peak levels, with respite several years away. Therefore, the establishment of bank staff is of major importance. For some services, retired members returning to work may be the only way of maintaining services, even when overtime is paid. Yet many areas are yet to establish a system to retain these nurses. Without an initial approach at the time of retirement, we are destined to lose these nurses and their experience forever, a valuable resource that cannot be ignored at this time of severe shortages. Storm Ophelia and Emma brought with them a wave of destruction across this country that has never been experienced in decades. Storm Emma in particular caused devastating effects on infrastructure, services and lives. As the country grinded to a halt and people secured their homes to wait it out, the streets fell silent. Yet through all this, nurses across the country went above and beyond the call of duty to care for patients in every hospital, hostel, unit and service in the north, south, east and west. Nurses' dedication to their work became the national talking point. All media conferred tales of example after example of the commitment shown by the profession and the pride that the nation felt towards those nurses and other emergency personnel. It was heartwarmingly genuine. In particular, the famous news story showing our very own members battle up the snow-covered Newtown Road in Waterford will be remembered by many as the image that captured the resilience of the entire nation. These nurses, the same nurses who endured the conditions that their employers placed them in, overcrowded and underfunded services, are the same nurses who walked miles in the snow for their patients and colleagues. These nurses should be commended for the way they represented themselves and indeed all of us. Other nurses like Aoife Butler, another Waterford member, gracefully and eloquently expressed to our leaders, these are the kind of nurses you are losing to other countries, in a widely shared and publicised post on social media. These are just a few examples of the exemplary work of the nurses throughout the crisis. Government ministers and the HSE were quick to commend those who slept on floors in hospitals, had periods of days away from home and families, and who risked their own safety to ensure the safety of others. Although I believe those sentiments to be true, talk is cheap. Recognising people properly for the sacrifices they have made is not. The indecision and confusion regarding the entitlements of public servants during the red alert period cannot happen again. We are currently in a process of discussions with the HSE to finalise the duration of the red alert that the red alert will cover, and also how staff who remained on site unrostered will be compensated. The issue of cost incurred by staff will also be finalised, and I hope that this will be concluded in the coming weeks. Our intellectual disability branches of the PNA have met on 2 occasions this year to discuss the difficulties within their own sector. This has been very positive and has allowed for a more concerted view, or concentrated view, of shared experiences and problems across the nation. A similar process is now to be undertaken for our CAM services so that the common problems can be advocated at national level. We are committed to our colleagues in these services and will ensure that their voices are heard. I wish to also mention the presentation made to the Oireachtas by our General Secretary Peter Hughes on the future of mental health services and our CAM services. I believe that the evidence presented by the PNA at these events was the most accurate picture of our service and was commended by those in attendance for its honesty. Hopefully, these insights will lead to a realisation for our elected officials that our society must protect those that are most vulnerable. Instead, there appears to be no objection to the treatment that places these individuals in totally unacceptable situations. Children on chairs, the elderly on corridors and mattresses on the floor. I ask those in government and the HSE, how can they stand over such practice in a so-called developed nation? Our patients deserve better than the barbaric conditions that some of them endure. It's time to wake up and move to put an end to these practices. As the PNA approaches 50 years in existence and we reflect on how far it has come over those years, it is easy to see how successful the organisation now is. Without a doubt, for decades, we have continuously maintained and grown our membership. This has made us stronger and has resulted in the levels of respect granted to us today and has allowed us to ensure that members always have support they need. Today, nothing has changed, but we do live in different times and in some ways a different world. Communication technology has changed the way we work. Issues are identified far more quickly. The information provided on our website alone far outweighs the information that we previously could have delivered to our membership in paper form. Indeed, we can now reach a great proportion of our membership by the click of a button. Industrial relations within this country has completely reconfigured itself over the past few years. The establishment of the Workplace Relations Commission has changed the way we process claims and seek compensation. The world has changed greatly in 50 years, and so must we change to keep up with it. This is why, over the past several months and into the coming months, the Rules and Reorganisation Subcommittee of the Officer Board will be examining our own structures. A full review of the systems currently in place will be conducted. This will encompass local, regional and national level and will be our first step in ensuring that the union structure reflects best how our members work. As the months go by, we will have a clearer picture of the finalised CHO structure, which will allow us to examine how certain services will be aligned. The establishment of the CHO model has made this inevitable, but it is also an exercise that is healthy and in keeping with where we should be as an organisation. 47 years is a good time for a check-up. 7 years ago, we saw the establishment of the NASRA and IFESA branches. This was a massive step forward for the PNA and was endorsed by our membership, not only as a way of increasing our numbers, but more importantly, a way of giving them a voice of their own. The last year has seen great strides within NASRA. The membership continues to grow, and we hope to see this progression maintained until they are recognised as the true voice for those working in the ambulance services. I am delighted to say that the indications for this are good. In February this year, a large number of the NASRA members attended their first ever training session. While in Tullamore, they also took the opportunity to rally a protest outside the NAS central payroll system to protest over the refusal to facilitate payroll subscription deductions for new members of NASRA. Over the coming months, NASRA will commence a campaign to end this discriminatory action. I wish them the very best and guarantee that the PNA will support them to whatever means possible so your voice can be heard. Good luck to you all. Before I sign off, I would also like to make a very special mention to those recently elected to the board of NIMBY. Mr. Liam Hamill, our very own ID representative on the OB, and Ms. Catherine Cokeman from our Kildare branch were recently elected as the representatives for intellectual disability and mental health respectively. This was a marvellous campaign and a delight for us to have supported and backed both candidates. We cannot underestimate the importance of representation within NMBI, and I wish both Catherine and Liam all the best during their time on the board. I wish to also take the opportunity to thank our National Secretary, Noel Giblin, for his tireless dedication to nurses during his time on the board. Having recently completed his tenure of Chairman of the Fitness to Practice Committee, Noel has spent many years as a respected voice on the board, and I thank him for his commitment to the nursing profession during this time. This is the tough one. While it pains me greatly, I could not end without mentioning Tricia Toland, a former board member, branch activist and great friend. She continues to battle a cruel illness with admirable strength, endless positivity and complete selflessness. To Tricia I say, keep fighting and know that we, your colleagues and friends, are with you and thinking of you always. Health has kept you away today, but next year we look forward to raising a glass for you and with you. You are loved, my friend, and you are missed. Finally, I would like to thank all the members of the Officer Board for their support and hard work for the PNA, and personally for the support to me as the new chairperson. I wish to thank the families, wives, husbands and partners of us all for their support and commitment to us as members of the board. I wish to thank the full-time officials who work tirelessly to represent our members with great success. I would like to thank all the office staff for their continued hard work, and the branch secretaries, chairpersons and committees who are at the very heart of this union. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to make a few more short thank yous before we go, and we're nearly finished for the day anyway, so it's all good. I just want to thank Breach Callan, Yad Murphy and Kevin O'Connor for their time on the board, and I'll miss you, we'll all miss you, and wish you the best. I want to welcome Sandra and Damien to the board for the first time, and Dennis, welcome back. You were with us before, so we look forward to working with you. I would like to thank all the staff in head office for all their hard work. The work the girls in the office do coming up to conference is phenomenal. They're just in night and day, and there's no job too big or small. I would particularly like to say to Elaine Melia, who is a good friend, as well as our executive secretary. Her organisational skills are exceptional, bordering on OCD, but they have greatly enhanced her work in head office, and by some miracle she is ensured to make sure Peter Hughes is where he should be when he should be there. I congratulate her on that. To Elaine, I want to say thank you very much. I consider you as much a sister as a friend, but always remember I'm the boss. I want to thank Michael Hayes for all his support to me over the last year, but in particular over the last few weeks. He makes himself available at all times to all members and to the OB, and I think we are very lucky to have him working for us. And thank you, Michael. To Caroline Briley, who has become somewhat of a sat-nav for me over the last year, showing me the way around Dublin, picking me up and driving me to meetings. I think her dedication and her work ethic is to be commended, and I think Des Kavanagh put it better than anyone could last year when he said, if Caroline Briley only knew how good she was, we'd never keep her. I do know if I was stuck in a corner and I need someone fighting for me, Caroline, I'd be honoured to have you next to me, and congratulations on your success. To Sean Melia, those of you may know Sean has been my biggest cheerleader and supporter for the last 10 years. 10 years ago, Sean invited me to an AGM. It was 15 years ago. I had only landed in Portlaoise. I hadn't been involved in the branch. I didn't know anyone. I was only 3 days working, and I left that meeting as the branch chairperson. In the interim, he has continued to support, encourage, and argue with me regularly. He has put me forward for everything. I replaced him as the regional rep on the board, and I do know he was down here on the Wednesday night last year in the Mount Wolseley, actually, canvassing every branch to support me for the nomination of the national chairperson, and I appreciate it greatly, Sean, and I thank you for all your advice and support, and I hope I've done you proud today. Fintan Lee is finished with us this year. He is coming off the board. I know he retired last year, but I do want to say thank you, Fintan. You have given me great encouragement over the last year. You have been a sounding board. You have been great company. You have made us laugh. You are very loud. But thank you very much, Fintan, for your support to me personally and from the officer board. I'm nearly finished, you'd be glad to know. To Des Kavanagh, who continues to work tirelessly for the PNA, even in his retirement, and personally to me, he's been a great support in the last year. I have picked up the phone to him a number of times just to bounce things off him. He continues to work in Áras Attracta, and I think people are very happy with him. He is greatly missed, and thank you, Des, for everything. And finally, to Peter Hughes, I spent a lot of time with Peter in the first weeks coming into office at the pay talks. He has done the Oireachtas submission. His work ethic and his ability is something I only had minuscule insight into until I had these experiences, and I want to congratulate him on his first full year, and I want him to know we are delighted and honoured to have him representing the association, and I wish him continued success. On a personal note, you don't often get at the end of conference the opportunity to thank people who voted for you. So last year I was elected in, but I never got the opportunity to thank each and every branch who supported me and gave me their votes. I have worked tirelessly in the last year. I am a mother of 5. I work full time, and I don't think I have missed one meeting I have been asked to go to, and I am dedicated, I am focused, and I will continue to represent this organisation as long as you give me the opportunity. Thank you all.